Geez, it's coming hard and fast today, isn't it? Ha! Try and ignore the sound in the background there. That's just a shitload of jalapeno chilies getting turned into juice. Oh, that's alright, you know. You know, if you get dusting sulphur for aphids and activated charcoal tablets for flatulence, and some stumpy rhoda, potassium nitrate, phosphate, sorry. Mix them 75, 15, 10. And process it properly. Got a big butterball. That's called black powder. No, I'm not a terrorist. I just know how to make shit.
Says that Trump was, quote, compromised by Israel and that his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was effectively running the Trump organization and presidency. So, in the new Epstein file release, it's coming out now, an FBI document was part of the files showing that allegedly Trump is compromised, allegedly, quote-unquote, I think that's pretty obvious at this point, by Israel. And, you know, I think we all know this, but seeing it on paper and seeing somebody actually formally state that is something else. So here's just one of the many posts talking about this. An FBI report from a confidential human source deemed credible says that Trump was, quote, compromised by Israel and that his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, was effectively running the Trump organization and presidency. So I have the document right here. I'm going to go ahead and share it with you guys, and let's just go through it. Some of the statements are truly pretty shocking stuff, or pretty interesting stuff. FBI reporting document from 2020, and this is coming from a confidential human source. Of course, you know, it doesn't state who it is, so we'll have to take that part with a grain of salt. But at the end of the day, I mean, they're stating things that are coming from Alan Dershowitz. So it seems like a lot of the allegations are credible. And regardless of whether or not we have to believe this document, we could just see how Trump is acting and recognize, okay, he's going way too far for Israel. So clearly something's up here.
Today is the last day to register for my new financial project. Why is it the last day? It's simple. Too many people are registering. And the problem is that this could reduce the profits for each participant. The fewer users that...
You don't
Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz, well, first off, let me start from the beginning. Captioned confidential human source was asked by the handling agent about information he or she may be aware of related to the improper domestic or foreign influence over the electoral process in the United States. CHS already provided some of the information documented in previous reports, so that this person's been used more than once, but he/she expanded on several matters as described below. So the long paragraph here goes ahead and says, Harvard law professor Alan Dershowitz, CHS learned that Dershowitz influenced many students from wealthy families. For example...
Really, like, when you think about it, you know, like, what are universities for? Like, I went to do a computer course a couple of years ago here in Burnie at the TAFE. The room was full of Asian Sheilas, Chinese girls, doing a computer course. Like, I'm talking adults, young adults, in their late teens, early 20s, doing basics of IT. Do you reckon maybe they was just using that visa to implant, to insert themselves into our community? I don't know. Could have been. Woo! It's going to be some nice chili sauce.
Example, Josh Kushner and Jared Kushner were both his students. Dershowitz told CHS that that if he were young again, he would be holding a stun gun as an Israeli intelligence Mossad agent. CHS believed Dershowitz was co-opted by Mossad and subscribed to their mission. CHS still continues to communicate occasionally for Dershowitz. See previous reporting. So again, this person has been used. Now, it really doesn't matter on paper whether or not Alan Dershowitz is considered a Mossad agent because we can just look at his actions, and the guy's acting exactly like a Mossad agent. So does he really need the label, I'm an Israeli Mossad agent? He's doing everything for Israel. What difference does it make at this point? I think we both know that. It's pretty obvious where his allegiance lies, just based on his actions. So it goes on, and it says, Jeffrey Epstein was represented by Dershowitz. CHS remembered that Dershowitz told Alex Acosta that Epstein belonged to both U.S. and Allied intelligence services. CHS shared phone calls between Dershowitz and Epstein during which he/she took notes. After these calls, Mossad would then call Dershowitz to debrief. Epstein was close to the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, and trained as a spy under him. Interesting. I'm going to just go straight to the part where it talks about Donald Trump being compromised, because I think that's what you guys are all waiting for, and then we'll go through the rest of it again. So let's see here. This part right over here. Developed Trump hotels and its billionaire. Harry introduced him/she to Indonesian CIA. Blank speaks Indonesian. CHS advised that this was a real collusion story. Trump has been compromised by Israel, and Kushner is the real brains behind his organization and his presidency. So, I mean, somebody's just like writing it out there blatantly. And, you know, it really does make sense when you look at everything. Who's the guy who's just spearheading this 20-point Gaza plan? It's all Jared Kushner. Who's the guy who's, you know, just been working behind the scenes? Does Jared Kushner even have an official role at the White House right now? Look at the way he's acting. It seems like he has one of the top roles. But he's just kind of doing his own thing while working in liaison for the U.S. government or for the government of Israel. It's just one big circle jerk at the top, and none of us are a part of it. That's basically what we're getting at here. And Trump is compromised. God knows what he's done. I mean, we've seen some of the released Epstein files. People are saying, oh, well, these are just allegations. Some of these are not deemed credible, yada, yada, you know, X, Y, and Z. At the end of the day, the way he's acting kind of tells us something's up. Otherwise, the files would have been released, and it's, you know, it's one thing if it's just one allegation, another allegation, but if you're getting dozens and hundreds of statements that are just truly compromising stuff, you have to, and from different people, mind you, you have to start to question, okay, is there something here? So now let's get into the rest of it. That's also, you know, it keeps going on. Just wait, it truly is crazy. A lot of the statements are wow. After these calls, Mossad would then call Dershowitz to debrief. Epstein was close to the former Prime Minister of Israel, Ehud Barak, and trained as a spy under him. Barak believed Netanyahu was a criminal. Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the United Arab Emirates were allied against Qatar, Turkey, Iran, and were allied against Qatar, Turkey, Iran, and Syria. So it was Saudi Arabia, Israel, and the UAE on one side, and Turkey, Iran, and Syria on the other side. And that seems pretty obvious when you look at geopolitics today. There is some very real growing tension between Israel.
You're starting to see some. Just caught me doing some cleaning. That's good stuff. Double strength vinegar. You cook your chips in oil, and a bit of chili sauce and double strength vinegar on those chips. Beautiful. So, you're starting to see how Sun Tzu's the enemy of my enemy is my temporary ally playing out here.
In Saudi Arabia, that's true, but when it comes to their stance on Iran and Qatar, you could tell that based on this, it's credible there. So asked CHS a lot of questions about Epstein, and the names are redacted here. CHS became convinced that Epstein was a co-opted Mossad agent. And that's obvious. You know, that's obvious based on his relations to Ehud Barak, his continuous statements by previous victims coming out publicly talking about his Jewish supremacy. and talking about Israel. There's something there that, and Maria Farmer, I've told you guys I previously spoke to her on an X Space, and she's talked repeatedly, she's done interviews talking about the Jewish supremacy coming out from Epstein. We have to consider that when it comes to his intelligence work. That's an important factor, because you really kind of have to dissect the Epstein persona to understand how this man operates. Okay, so he believed he was a supremacist. He didn't really feel like he seemed to have any allegiance to the United States, mind you. Compromising material on everybody, all of the...
Everybody knows, everybody knows. Everybody knows. Bum, 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 bum. Look at you. $100 bills. Everybody knows that the entire acting, the central casting actors are Jewish. It's a Jewish organisation that came about at the end of World War One. It's a 100-year-old company. And those are the people that supply all the zombies in zombie movies and all that sort of stuff, and fill-ins for intelligence agency stings like CIA and Mossad. CIA and Mossad are joined at the hip. Well, everybody knows that, don't they? Everybody knows. Look at you. Think of Donald Trump and his connections to TV and American wrestling and real estate, the film industry, and Jeffrey Epstein and his connections to all the same shit. Just saying. When they made that zombie movie here in Wynyard, and they was looking for all them B-graders to walk around and pretend to be zombies, did they recruit anybody? Because that was a central casting thing. Did that movie go anywhere? I never saw it.
These elite figures,
it was advertised in the paper though, looking for people to go and be zombies as fill-ins in Wynyard or somewhere.
Politicians, and now we have Trump installed as president.
Might have been Stanley. Stanley, fly away, Stanley. Be free.
Trump voted in as president, and we have Miriam Adelson here coming out just about a month ago now during one of Trump's speeches, and she was talking, and she just goes out publicly and says, "I've been speaking with Alan Dershowitz." You guys remember this? And she says, "Alan Dershowitz told me that there's a legal way for you to run a third-term Trump." And then Trump is, feeling all, his ego is getting boosted up. "Oh, I could run another term? That sounds great." And she's like, "Seriously, Trump, you could do it. I'll pay for it." So it seems like just outward...
He can run as many terms as he'd like as long as he keeps the war going. It's called wartime... It's called continuance of governance during a wartime economy. War strategy. You can't change leaders during a war.
When you kind of analyze the entire situation, I don't think Trump even cares that he's compromised at this point, because he's willing to do whatever he wants for Israel as long as he gets titles and his ego is boosted and he's at a top position of power. It seems like that's the case. If I'm wrong, you tell me in the comments. But that's what I see, just looking at things blatantly.
Bang on.
The document goes on, and let's see right here, she has been, Masha Drokova has been running a firm called Day One Ventures in Silicon Valley, which is supposed to be supposedly an early stage investment company. She used to be Russian President Vladimir Putin's main contact in the Russian youth movement. CHS and Drokova spoke, but Drokova did not talk about all the technology. Instead, she looked at CHS and said, "You knew Epstein, didn't you?" She said Epstein was a wonderful man, and that it was a crying shame what had being done to him. CHS concluded Day One Ventures was in Silicon Valley to steal technology. And we'll have to look more into Day One Ventures in another video to really deep dive into what's going on in the state.
Speaking of deep dives, go back in time in the Wayback Machine in my videos, you'll find where I've done one by a mortician who's got her own YouTube channel, and she done a special on Jeffrey Epstein, and she said the man we looked at on the autopsy table was a picture of a very much alive man. That was supposed to be, that was Jeffrey Epstein. Was he at a morgue? Was he? Or was he like under one of his buildings on the island? There was definitely blood all over the floor. Just saying. It was the picture, the official picture too, the one that the whole world was shown to show that he was dead. Very much alive. Still in view on my $2 setup.
Statements that made there. This part was, you know, when we talk about the networks and how it's just an elite circle that none of us are a part of, this part really highlights that. CHS advised Chabad is doing everything they can to co-opt the Trump presidency. Chabad is basically state-sanctioned Judaism. It is used by Putin to keep tabs on all the Russian Jewish oligarchs. On the day Trump was elected president, Ivanka Trump and Jared were at the gravesite of Rabbi Shearson, who was the most powerful rabbi in the Shabbat network. Okay, so now they're talking about this, you know, they're saying that Putin used this sort of state-sanctioned Judaism to keep tabs on Russian Jewish oligarchs. CHS believed that this is the real Russian collusion story. Kushner has moved a lot of Russian investment money around. The FBI should investigate Kushner's family to charities to find evidence of corruption and money laundering. Chabad routinely uses charities to launder money.
Please stop investing your money in projects that ultimately do not generate a return. I am Anthony Pratt.
Probably did.
Again, it seems like there's an elite network here of individuals, you know, heavily Zionist, promoting the interests of a foreign government, working together to grab compromising material on Trump and whoever else it may be. We have individuals that are speaking out. I wish we could find out who this individual CHS is. If they didn't do anything wrong, I wish they'd just be kind of willing to risk it all and come out publicly and say, this is me, and just show evidence. You know, that would be that would just be a fairy tale scenario. I wish it would happen, but we'll see how things unfold moving forward. Is there anything else that's really shocking in here that I wanted to share with you guys? Let's see, Elliot, this part is interesting. Elliot Brody recently pled to charges related to money laundering, unregistered lobbying for the UAE. So this part is interesting, and it shows that there was basically a lot of lobbying pressure by a lot of these, you know, powerful individuals, and the lobbying pressure was to push for U.S. sanctions on Qatar. And this was done not because of President Trump apparently, you know, considering real American interests, but more so because of the pressure that was put in him. So this individual successfully lobbied to increase U.S. sanctions on the government of Qatar. CHS advised that this individual was the largest fundraiser for Trump supporting the 2016 presidential election. CHS believed this was an unregistered lobbyist. So that's, and then where do we end up with right here? CHS emphasized the importance for the FBI to investigate Gawker for its involvement in pushing Russian propaganda. The synopsis here is foreign intelligence on U.S. officials by Israel, Russia, and the UAE. I've previously made a video on this, and I've told you guys that if they talk about Israel and the UAE, or just the United Arab Emirates in general, even, you know, Saudi Arabia has came out publicly and said this, the United Arab Emirates is Israel's Trojan horse in the Arabian Gulf. The United Arab Emirates is a group of Arabs that are basically Israelis at this point. When you look at their, you know, the way they work together, when you look at their geopolitical interests in the region, when you look at the funding of these non-state sponsored actors by the UAE and Israel, in Sudan, in Yemen, they're really one and the same, Israel and the UAE, which is also why Lindsey Graham came out publicly just yesterday or maybe the day before, and Lindsey Graham is threatening and aggravated at Saudi Arabian officials because Saudi Arabian officials were, you know, speaking negatively on not just Israel but also the UAE and stating that the UAE is a compromising figure in the Arabian Gulf. So then all of a sudden Lindsey Graham is like, you can't talk about the UAE like that. The UAE is Israel's greatest ally in the Middle East. That's what he's going. So you have to realize that when you hear the word UAE, even though they're a bunch of Arabs, they're basically Israelis at this point. Which is why if you go on X, you'll see a ton of accounts from the UAE, and all of a sudden now there are these massive Zionist accounts that Elon Musk is always boosting on X because they're just straight up Zionist shills. So, that's really everything for this video, guys. Let me...
Well, there you go. Wouldn't it be funny if all this happened and then everyone just bang, and then Trump would pull his mask off like a Scooby-Doo and it was fucking Bobby Kennedy Sr. Fuck, I'd laugh. But that's not it. That's what the Q-tards would let you think. That's what they want you to think. They all think like Bobby Kennedy Jr. is still alive. I'm not even going to say he's not still alive because there's some things about his plane crash that don't add up. And it even could be Bobby Kennedy. Who knows? They're fucking... Remember, that's Hollywood. America is Hollywood. The gateway to hell, I reckon. Woolworths truck parked up the road up here. Just see around the side of the building. It's got a big picture of a dude on the back of it. It looks like a giant walking down the road. Yeah. That's cleaning with the vinegar, double strength vinegar. You look in here. You look in there. It'll tell you that vinegar is that's what you're supposed to clean with. Olive soap. Olive soap for us. Vinegar for bacteria and germs and mould, and it's the best antibacterial germ killing cleaning agent you could use. There's no horrible harsh chemicals in it. It's fully organic. And it's really good for, breaking down the... If you haven't got access to apple cider vinegar, it's good for breaking down your chilies to make sauce. In my eye. Might be a bit of that chili sauce in my eye.